Today I'm sitting with Lisa. Lisa, what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Paint. I paint pretty much every day. I'm an artist.
What led you down to the path of being an artist?
It was just a personal desire. It was never really a career choice, but it just kept started off as sort of a healing thing
Mm-hmm.
because it felt so good and because your life is so busy. You're doing so many things, family, relationships, income, all of those things. And I needed a detox or a de-stressor. So that's what started art for me.
Mm-hmm. What was your childhood like?
I was actually very lucky. I had a really good childhood.
Okay.
Six brothers and sisters, and we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. Fun brothers.
Mm-hmm. Where did you grow up?
I grew up, well, I was born down in California, Southern California, and then moved up to Northern California and lived on a ranch most of my life.
Okay. What were your adolescent years like?
Well, my adolescence years, I went to college, and then after college, I got married, and then I had a family.
Okay.
So I was pretty, I think, normal, I guess. But when I had my family is when I started painting.
Mm-hmm.
So when my kids would go to bed, then I would start painting and love every minute of it until I went to bed.
Beautiful, beautiful. What has been your biggest achievement?
I would say probably my art studio and gallery and books. I publish books that teach other people how to paint in a really easy way so that they can enjoy the process
Mm-hmm.
and not really struggle with things like perspective. So, between those two and my family, I have a really wonderful family. I feel so blessed.
What do you struggle with?
Probably the biggest struggle for me in my would be my career and finances specifically. I didn't understand how finances work because I was actually raised in a family where we were all business people. I was literally the only artist, well,
Mm-hmm.
besides one sister who's doing really well. But I didn't know about, my dad once told me it's an inside job, and I didn't really know what he meant. So I thought he meant people who worked indoors versus people who worked outdoors, thinking, the blue collar kind of thing,
Yeah.
versus being out, on the street or something. But that it wasn't at all what he meant. What he meant was that you have to feel it on the inside. You have to be it on the inside, which sort of led me down my road of learning about manifestation,
Mm-hmm.
which is merely who am I and what frequency am I resonating to and what frequency am I trying to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much everybody's trying to adjust their frequency. It's a fine tuning thing, like a radio station. And the number one thing you have to do is pick your goal. And then once you pick your goal, you have to practice that goal every single day. You have to be that person at least for a little bit of your day. So I start off my days typically. I immediately get up and meditate so that it's really, really quiet and that I can have a super quiet stillness inside of me. So it doesn't mean that I get like these profound insights, even though I do. But what happens when I create that every single day, I'm in synchronicity with things around me,
Mm-hmm.
making life a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So before, whenever I would struggle, 99% of the time, it was thought that was causing me to struggle, and I didn't know it. I thought it was me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to separate the two, just like you have to separate things in your life in order to get everything to work smoothly.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what led me down my road of manifestation because with art, there's a stigmatism that it's difficult. And it's only difficult if you buy into that. But I do know it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen without elbow grease.
That's true.
You have to put in the work. And when I first heard that, was very frustrated with that because I thought I had put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll know when you've put in the work because people will literally come to you to start buying things because your quality is up to speed. So all the while you're learning a craft, whatever it is, plumbing, building houses, painting paintings, you got to get good. So you may as well just start doing it. So that's why when people say stick with what you love, it'll be a lot easier to do, and then the money will follow.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and for me, one of my biggest struggles was learning perspective in art. It was just a challenge for me. And once I figured it out, because I would have teachers when my children were young. Teachers would come and say, can you come teach art? They find out what you do and they want you to come help with the school and you want to help. So I did one Friday afternoon, and that one Friday afternoon turned into 10 years of Friday afternoons. And they taught me, those kids are so much fun to hang out with because they're free,
Yeah.
for the most part. Their thinking is free, so they talk free and they're happy. And anyway, they basically taught me what people will and won't do, and it showed me a system of painting so that there's no math, no vanishing point grid systems, lines of horizon. So you learn a lot easier. And once you learn the system, you can paint anything you want.
Sounds like I need to come hang out with you a little bit more, because I struggle with perspective too.
Yeah, well, I think everybody does, because they're trying too hard instead of trusting your eyes. Your eyes actually know the way because you are born with it. We all are. And if we don't, we get glasses, so we do. But once you trust your eyes and start playing with the painting, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more fun. So then I had a system, and I was doing really well at my studio, and I had a lady come in, and she was probably 20 years older than me, and she said she'd been painting her whole life and never got better. And she literally started to cry at my feet, and I felt so bad. I said, if you come back next year — she was from Alaska — I said, if you come back next year, I will have a pamphlet for you, because I had already had pamphlets from classes that I needed to use when conducting a class. And I actually didn't think I would ever see her again. And she showed up a year later, and I felt like a heel because I had nothing ready. So I told her, if you come back in another year, I will have something for you. And by then, I had enough of them to just put a book together. And I actually put that on Amazon, and it just immediately took off. And that's when I realized there's a lot of people who want to paint, but they don't want to have to figure out what to paint, and they don't want to have to figure out how to put the image they want onto canvas. But they want to paint, and they want to learn while they're painting so that they can eventually put whatever they want on their own canvas. And so I just basically came up with books that give you lessons that start off really, really simple, and they can get as advanced as you want, but they give you a guideline so that you can continue to learn the system and get progressively better as you paint. And so you get better fast. And that all came from those kids, and then that one lady who I didn't think I'd ever see again. So now I have like 12 books, and those do really well, and I now sell all over the world.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
That's really cool.
And I still use this system myself in all of my paintings because I want to play with the image to make sure it can be the most beautiful thing I can create for somebody's home.
Talk about how you discovered the law or manifestation and synchronicity. What was your life before and then after this discovery?
Before I discovered manifestation, it was a struggle. And then once someone said, you're doing it to yourself, it was like, oh, are you sure? I never even thought about it. If you want to know the truth, I never even considered it as part of the life. It's just like you go along life and you just like a ball in one of those pinball machines, and you go over here when this happens and you go over here when this happens. And then I realized that I got to start setting goals, and I got to start being serious about it. And then it also wasn't until I ran into the books from the 1920s where I follow a podcast by Brian Scott, and he basically has a bookstore, and he reads all these books from the 1920s, and they're all about manifestation and using your own imagination. And I thought, well, I have a really good imagination. Well, I probably listened to this stuff for like 10 years before I realized that I'm not using my imagination. I'm actually just studying the material. So it's the difference between going to school and then actually doing it. So the minute or the day that I started actually physically going into my imagination and creating the things that I did want, things started shifting. And then I realized that we are always manifesting every single second of the day. So that means we have to be responsible for every single thought that leaves, or clean it up, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's coming back faster and faster and faster. The better you get at manifestation, just be forewarned. You have to step up to the plate through all of it and say, okay, I did that. How am I gonna shift that? And luckily, the people around you will reflect where you need to shift. They'll do a slight reflection, and then you can say, oh, okay. And you don't have to address it right then and there, because you've still got life and your day-to-day things going on. But at the end of every day, especially if I feel something weird in my field, so to speak, so the field around you, people who are really in tune with the planet, they can see what they call an aura around you, an energy field. And since we now know that science can see that energy field up to a long ways away, and actually hear it up to a football field or up to 2 miles away. So if you ever studied physics, you know that there's resonance, and resonance is merely the movement of sound. And so when they put 2 tuning forks on a football field, and one is at the end and the other is the end, and they hit the C note, well, the other one starts to vibrate, and that's just the movement. Well, what happens when they just intend to hit it, but they don't really hit it? The other one starts to vibrate. And that's just science showing us that we're manifesting all the time. We're sending things out all the time. So that's why synchronicity, for those who are paying attention, will realize, oh, I'm on track. I'm on track. So every time I see like numbers or things or insight on a truck, then I know, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention.
Yeah.
So it's back to, we were talking about the Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. I highly recommend. It's probably the first time I think I woke up. And I was like, oh, right. Everything that I'm thinking about is past or future. Where am I spending my time? Too much in the past, too much in the future. I want to spend my time on my goals. So you're always getting thoughts that you're actually comfortable with, whether they're positive or negative. And if you want something to shift, you have to change that inner dialogue. And the easiest way to do that is to fall asleep listening to positive affirmations. And you'll know that you'll have a block, because you'll wake up when you're listening to them and you'll say, that's not true, or something like that. You'll be like, no way, or it will really, really irritate you. And then I have a block to something that is being said here. And you just have to keep playing it. So that when you fall asleep, right as you fall asleep, they call it something, science calls it something, but it's where you shift from one consciousness to your subconsciousness. And that you're talking to the program. You're talking to your internal program, which we are either born with or we picked up along the way. And say thank you for that, because nobody knows what another soul came to learn. So I know that if I'm having an issue, maybe my soul's here to learn that. So I better just learn it. And so that's why when we were talking about judgment, it does you no good to judge somebody else, because you don't know what their soul's here to learn. They're here to learn how to smoke a pack of cigarettes a day and love every minute of it. And then die at 108, and laugh. But so when you realize that, then judging is literally useless. You can and actually you're only judging yourself. You're just seeing a reflection of yourself. But when you put it back on yourself and you take all responsibility, then you know that, okay, all my thoughts should go towards the program I do want. And peace, quiet, calm, happiness, joy, financial success, abundance in every way, health, a good family, lots of love, and enjoyment every single day. Obviously, not everybody's going to have that every single day, because we have this thing called being born human. And welcome to humanity. They won't tell you this. But luckily, we have your generation who is coming along and saying, yeah, there's a different way to do things. And we have people like Brian Scott's podcast who will show you that this information comes around every 100 years or so, and it gets put aside because of what somebody would call the real world, or the 3D world. Well, if you examine the 3D world and look at science,
Mm-hmm.
You took a human body and took all of the energy out of it, and you can look this up in your physics book, it would equate the size of a pinhead.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest is energy. So I'm worried about the pinhead and not paying attention to the inside job. And if I don't do the inside job, my world will not change. And you may have, and many, especially in my generation, were just sort of programmed into the program to worry, to this is who you are, and this is what's supposed to happen. That's why I say artists who go to art school, don't listen to anything that isn't in your goal set. Actually, it would be better if you were an artist to get a business degree. Then finances is easily. You would be better at anything to just get a business degree. Then you know where money comes from. You know how money works, and then all you have to do is learn your profession. I think college should just be business schools.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you don't learn how to make money when you graduate from college, you shouldn't have to pay them back because they didn't teach you what you needed to learn. That's the only reason people go to college is how to turn a buck. And if you don't learn that, then they shouldn't. Shame on them.
No, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah, everybody should. But there's also the part where you got to get up and be on time and get there to class and do your studies, and that's tough for a lot of people because they're either tired or they want to do fun things, and those fun things can always happen, but you have to make time for your goals. And if you don't have any, you'll get to a certain age and you'll be like, okay, I got to get some. I got to know what I want. Because if you don't know what you want, you will literally be guided by ancestry or your parents or your friends. So you want a beacon. And then whenever doubt hits, so doubt is just lack of faith. And if you were to look at doubt as if it were a crystal, it would be an unfinished black hole. And if you were to look at faith, it looks like a beautiful crystal. So there's a guy named Dr. Emoto. I think I may have told you about him. Everybody should have his book. It's a coffee table book. You open it up and it has beautiful crystals. And it basically just shows you that your words have power and everything that you're emitting is coming as a reflection of you. And if you want to pull something to you, you better start talking about what you do want instead of what you don't want. You better start living as if it already is instead of as if it isn't. And while hope is a good thing, it just means it hasn't happened yet. So if you want something to happen, why would you hope for it? Just have it.
Well, like I've heard shared with you the Jim Carrey quote, but here's another one. I don't know if he came up with it, but I heard him say is, hope stands in the fire while faith leaps over the fire.
Correctly. I totally agree. Yeah, and what they mean by the fire is, to put it as gently as possible, you got to have some balls, man. You got to go for it.
Totally.
When everybody in the world is against you, but your gut is saying, go for it. It's like snowboarding. I don't know if you snowboard, but there's a point where you have to point that board straight down in order to make the next turn. You don't even start on the next goal, for example, or turn until your all systems are go. Because if you don't have all systems that go, you're going to wreck. But that's okay. Wrecks teach you what you don't want. But you also, when you start a goal and you have doubt, there's so many successful people that say, better not to tell people your dreams let them see it after it's happened. So that way you don't have to defend it.
No, you're totally right. You're totally right. I love
so
that.
Keep it to yourself, but go in every single day and explore it.
Mm-hmm.
Explore your dreams.
So how do we get to someone that has never heard this before? How do we get to the point of pure present moment living and manifesting our future?
Well, pure present moment is fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
However, every single person has access to it through something that they're already doing. What that means is you can always go back to the right before you fall asleep. You're usually in that state of presentness, even though you don't know it, because you're shifting, your mind is shifting. But when you do something you love, you're in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
When you're helping someone you love, you're in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, when you're in an emergency, you're in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
People have lifted cars when they're in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Remember we talked about everything mass is so 99 with 7 more 9.7 more nines after it. energy and the rest is just mass. That's how people are lifting cars. They're in the moment. So when you are in the moment, like I said, fleeting, because we're trained 3D, because we're living on the planet and we want to live, we have to learn how to manipulate that, or they call it riding the razor's edge. The easiest way to do that is to follow your breath. You can stay in the moment by following your breath. So say, for example, you get triggered. Oh, I just saw an X or something like that. Now I feel like a totally 13-year-old again, and I've lost it all. I'm pissed off, and all these emotions are going through your body. You have to first recognize that, oh, I got triggered. I just got triggered. That's not who I am. That's who I was. But this whole field just blew my system, and I was jacked up and happy before I saw them. And it's totally normal. That's part of being human. But once you realize it, you can go, okay, stop, and take a breath. And breathe and know that maybe I do, maybe I don't have time right now to address this. But if I don't have time, I eventually will have to address it because it will just pile up on you. But if you do have time, you want to stop and go, what was that? Oh, that's that and that and that. Was there any other time in my life that has happened? And immediately, within a third of a second, a thought, which is a photon firing off in your brain, will fire something and you will get an image. That image is an indication that this came from here. And you might want to go back and clean that up a little bit or give the mind a new story. So what that means is, for example, I had this thing where my mom couldn't leave. And it's like, oh, where did that come from? My mom's fine. I'm fine. Everybody's fine. I think when I was 3 years old, she was getting on a plane to leave, to go somewhere. And I remember specifically putting my hands on the window thinking, no, she can't leave. She just can't leave. And I'm looking at my other brothers and sisters like, are you not seeing this? We can't let her leave. And I thought, all I have to do is go back and say, Lisa, she's going to be here in 2 days. It was like, oh, we have to let the kid off the hook. It's like, oh, please let him off the hook. Somebody should have just told me she's gonna be gone only 2 days. She'll be back. But so I had that in my head, and I realized I didn't even remember I remembered that until I was addressing things where people were leaving, and I would feel this real sadness. And I'm like, oh, why is that there? I was actually happy 2 days before they got here, but now they came and we enjoyed the visit, and they have to leave, and I feel super sad. It's like, oh, that came from this incident and this incident and this incident, and go back and clean them up and know that, oh, I don't have that loneliness anymore. That loneliness is living in me, and I can dissolve it. And move forward, and the move forward is always the new story. And so what's the new story? I'll see him again in a week. Or I'll see her again in a week. But once you address your stories and you know the story is there, or the block, because you'll have a trigger. Something will trigger you and you'll be like, oh, now I feel like shit. Or whatever.
Totally. So with that, let me ask you the podcast question, since we don't have a whole lot of time. Why are we born?
I think we are born, a lot of it is what I think goes back to the soul. So if you look at it from a soul perspective, and the soul looking down on the body, I think it was Alan Watts who said, where's your soul? Your soul is at home in your bed. And I loved that answer because it made me think, good for you.
Yeah.
At least one of us has got the hang of it.
Yeah.
But I think your soul wants to learn things, and it has 100% to do with your emotional field. We're waking up to the emotional field. Once we wake up to this emotional field, no one will be able to trigger us or take us on a roller coaster ride with their emotions, whether they be fear or love, whatever they are. We will know that, I am in control of my emotions. But once you are aware of that, the game is a little bit over. So it's like, no one can trick me anymore. Now you can help humanity.
Yes, totally.
So, and you're here for enjoyment.
Yeah.
Look at the planet. You don't even have to travel anymore to see so many beautiful, wonderful things. I don't know if you've ever listened to NDEs, near-death experiences.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I spent one Sunday, and I just listened to them all Sunday long. It was like a stormy day. Couldn't go outside. Everything was closed down. It's like, maybe it was even last year during the stay-home days. The stay-home year, we'll call it.
Yeah, totally.
The break that everybody took. I listened to them all day long, and it basically showed me that we step in and out of bodies, and we do it because we want to learn maybe something, but we also want to experience. It's an experience. It's an adventure if you want it to be, and a terrible thing if you want it to be.
Yeah.
But some people are born into the harshest sort of realities, and you'd be amazed how many of them pull out of it once they wake up to that. Well, this is exactly what I don't want.
Well, like, I know, like, this is maybe a little, young for you to know about, but do you know who Eminem is? The rapper?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't know his music, but obviously I've heard of him.
yeah, so, like, Eminem, is, like, at least the first person I think of when it comes to that, what you just said is, Eminem was born without his dad in the worst part of Detroit with a junkie mom, piece of shit mom, and blah, blah, blah. And he stepped up to the plate and, worked hard, rapped every day, wrote songs every day and built his stuff up and put himself out there. As you said, got some balls, put himself out there.
Pointed the board down, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And he turned his whole life around.
And listen to no one around him, because they will all pile their story on.
Well, he's white, trying to be a black rapper, basically.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that either. But yeah, he's got the idea. But the biggest thing is, I think he probably, instead of listening to the world around him, which is trying to pile on that heavy bricks, is that he sunk into his music.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't hold a good vibe down. I'm sorry, you just can't. When I paint from the heart, and I can feel it, and I feel so jacked up and happy. Same thing with snowboarding and hanging out with the grandkids. I have grandkids, and they're the best. So, or kids, just hanging out with kids and playing in the park and turning everything else off. And you realize, oh, wow, life is actually really, really good.
Yes.
Stuff happens that I don't like, and it's a bump in the road. I can completely stop and examine the bump for 30 days, or I can just go around it or over it or however I want to get around it, and then leave it in the past as experience, chalk it up as, okay, that happened last time. Do I want to even go down that road? Well,
like, since we're praising Alan Watts today, as we always do, let's praise him some more. And I don't know if he came up with this. I don't know. I honestly don't know if he did or not, but it's like, when you look at the yin and yang symbol, you know what that is, right?
Right.
When you look at it, if you were to take away, because, like, let's say it represents white positive and black negative, if you take away the black, it's just nothing. Or the white.
We need the black for motivation. Otherwise, we'd never get off the couch.
And
we hold the clicker all day long and watch
right?
TV or play games.
And to know what happiness is, because you can't know what happiness is without sadness, and vice versa. You can't know what sadness is without happiness. What rain is without sun. If the one with one of those was just constant, you would never know.
You would never know, and you would also get used to the one that you're born with or born into. So the people who are born into the unfortunate ones, they're the ones who said, you know what? This isn't who I am. This isn't who I want to be, so I'm going to shift it. And you can either do like he did or any other master in any field whatsoever. And he could be the guy who's the plumber down the street and can plumb your whole house in 20 minutes and makes the same as the guy who takes 2 months. He's a master at what he does, and people will seek you out. So whatever you're doing in life, whether it's art or anything, just pour your heart into it and do it. And if it's a financial issue like it was for me, handle it. Know that it's an inside job. I have to know what I want. What is my goal? Whatever the money is that you want, for example, what would that look like at the end of the month if I had this amount? What would that look like? And then jump it up. What would that look like? So that you get your whole interior field, your emotional field, in tune with it. And just know that every single day is like fine tuning until you get there. And one day you feel like, I feel like $1 million. I feel so good. And then the next day you'll be like, oh, damn it, that person came over. Now I don't feel so good anymore. But you'll recognize the differences. And that's just like you said, what you don't want is showing you what you do want. So you have to walk the wire a little bit of life, but you don't just want to do the canyon right away. You want to have practice shots at this, So you have to build up to it.
What, one of the questions I told you about, what was your rock bottom? Have you ever had suicidal thoughts?
I don't know that that's a normal thing, but I think that there is a rock bottom for almost everybody who experiences a loss, and we all have experienced some sort of a loss of something either isn't working out or the person didn't work out or something happened. And I think I was lucky because I had Eckhart Tolle, and I think a lot of people don't realize how lucky they are because of the internet. So you have almost too much help.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting help, then you're actually in that space, you're causing a chronic illness on your body.
Mm-hmm.
And only one that can shift it is you.
Mm-hmm.
And some people actually get angry and they want to blame somebody else. So I think depression, what's below depression is not caring about anything. So and then you get depressed about it, and then you get angry about it. So, and then there's another order. But when I've gone through just the bottom, I never really turned to anything other than meditation. It helped me realize that 99% of the time it was the thoughts going through my head. And once I knew that if I kept thinking what I'm thinking today and I don't want it, I'm actually recreating my future. So I have to create a new one, and that's where the goals come in. If you don't have a goal, you don't know what to do.
You have no purpose.
And your purpose will be shown to you. And
Mm-hmm.
it could be something obscure like leadership, or you may work at the ice cream parlor, but you may be the person who supports other people by these one little tiny comments, and and you say, well, I want to make a shift. Well, then make a shift in your goal. I want to work here. So I think it's almost what your soul's learning, but you as the person need to keep setting new goals and changing things up so that you can get where you want to be. And you have to start imagining it. Don't take way too long like I did. Literally sit your butt down in a chair, close your eyes, you can completely relax and imagine what you do want. And it can't happen one or two times. It's like brushing your teeth one or two times a year and saying, did I get a good checkup? It has to happen every day, just like exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're, in our day and age, we're not, we're following the program instead of leading it. We need to get off the program and create our own. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what people don't want you to know, is that you're creating the program when you're on it. They have a thing in science called the pendulum. And once you get a certain amount of energy on the pendulum, it is very hard to get off. Mm-hmm. You almost have to have a rock bottom moment. And a lot of people will get in a car accident. Something bad will happen. And then they know that that's the rock bottom point because nothing could get worse. Although there are those few that would say it could. And you would say, I'm not hanging out with you for a while.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Why would you even say that?
Well,
Just
now
I'm
because
gone.
we know that. Well, we know that that's not true for any of us because we now know that you got to grab your thoughts, you got to grab your emotions and shift it. And once people are aware of that, and there's a lot of people who don't want you to be aware of that because you can't jump on their pendulum anymore.
And you can't fit into their agendas, if you realize that. Because
You
I
just have to be a screen door, which is super hard to do because it means you can't judge them.
Yeah.
You just have to give them space. As Eckhart Tolle says, you have to give them space for their story,
Mm-hmm.
and then be on your way.
Totally. So, what is death? What is the point of death? Why do we give life? Why do we live to only just die?
Well, but maybe it's, if you look at death like, actually you look in the old books, Bibles, the Kabbalah, they all talked about people that lived to 700 to 800 years. And you think, wow, that would be just wild to live that long. But what if everything was so healthy that you just lived that long? But what if you got bored? You're like, well, dude, I want to be a giraffe. I've always wanted to be a giraffe. I thought that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Or whatever, or a whale, or then go to the depths of the sea, or on another planet. So I actually think that people come in for a certain amount of time, like a class. Let me just ask you, how many times have you been back to your high school?
I've actually been back to my high school 2 times.
Yeah, well, but not a lot, right?
Yeah, not a lot.
You don't want to.
Yeah.
And you're junior high. You're grammar school. I don't think I've been back to my high school one time.
Yeah.
I don't think, because that was an old life, sorry, for example.
Yeah.
So think of life as a class or whatever, a period of time, And I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to try something different. You get bored with it, especially the classes that are all heady and stuff, unless you're into that. The classes that aren't for you, you just like, oh, I'm not majoring in that. I know. I'm going to get out of this life early, for example. I'm ready to move on to the next one because I now know what I don't want. For example, a homeless person, no offense to them, but I don't want to sleep on the street. It's hard. And my body likes comfort.
Yeah.
I've figured out enough to know that comfort it's just a nice thing.
Yeah. What about, so I got to ask you this, and because I'm just curious, right? So with manifestation and, creating your future and all that, what about the people that die in a car crash? What about the people that get kidnapped and then murdered? What about the things that we can't control?
Yeah, you can't control them. So giving energy to them is still giving them energy. The best thing that you can do is send love to their families. And know that I don't know what their path is, but somebody else making me feel uncomfortable about it is maybe something I would learn. But somebody else, when they ask you questions where they want you to be at the defense of like, you can't be so happy, because that's one thing that really does kind of irritate some people. But you have to just give them love anyways, and know that they're on their path, and whatever their life story is, you can still give them love and give them space to be. Some people choose challenges in life, like people who are born with disabilities or something. Maybe their last life, they were such a strong person, and they said, I just want someone to take care of me where I can cruise like through Disneyland.
Yeah.
And people just, it's all good. And then you realize, oh, okay. And what was their soul learning? Their soul was learning how to take help, how to get help.
Totally. Your soul chooses that path.
Yeah, and the only thing that thinks of it as bad is those who aren't living it. They think, oh, that's bad, or something's wrong with that, and these other people should be on board with that point of view. No, these other people should take care of their lives just like you should take care of yours.
I like that.
Worrying too much about somebody else's life isn't going to help yours, and you're not going to help them by sending out sad energy to them. You will help them by sending out love, though. Sending them love. Give them a hug. See them the way you want to see them. So I had a very dear friend who had a very unfortunate thing happen, and I was very sad for her. But then I realized that, okay, I want to close my eyes and see that person as if she is in the position I know she wants to be. So I now, every time I see her, I see that. And I now know that one day I will see her in that position. So you want to imagine people the best they can be, the best, whatever it is they want. So if somebody's going through a rock bottom hard time, you need to ask them, what's your goal?
Yeah.
Always go back to the goal. Well, if you had that goal and you already had the ice cream and it was good and you loved it, what would you be doing what you're doing right now? Sitting, crying, upset? No, you wouldn't. You'd be saying, I got to get more work done. I got to get this done.
Yeah.
I have an agenda.
Totally.
People need me. So you have to set the goal. If you're ever in doubt, which is the opposite of love, so to speak, fear and doubt are very close friends. And you want to realize, I don't want that. I don't want that. What would it look like? So always go back to your goal. When you have a goal and your whole world is on fire around you, obviously you want to get safety, but after that you want to start being the person you want to be.
Yeah.
You gotta start. It's an inside job. Once you get the inside handled, then you only have 0.00003%, 3% to move. That's why you're literally, people who make the most money aren't hardly even working, because they figured it out. They figured out how to fine-tune their field to get the clients that they need to live life effortlessly.
I like that. So, are you afraid of death and what's after death?
No, because when I listen to near-death experiences, then you realize that you don't really die. You actually step out of a pair of clothing and step into something new. And from my understanding, people who are passed away or living another dimension, because you never die, the field never, you never lose anything. You lose 7 O's with a 0.3. So it's like clipping your fingernails. That's what death is. It's clipping your fingernails. Would you pick up all those nails that you've had your whole life and say, I had to take these with me. I'm going to try and hang on to this. No, let it go. Start something new, fresh. So from my understanding, people who have passed on are busy, just like we are. They're living their lives. And as Einstein had already mathematically proven, there are 12 dimensions that he could write out mathematically, and that was just as far as he got, and we're only living in the third. So we know there are other dimensions.
Yeah.
And, like love, we can't see love, but you can feel it.
Yeah, you can't.
And it's what makes people marry the people they marry, live the places they live, take the jobs they have. So follow your heart. Your heart has way more thinking power than the mind, for sure.
Well, it's same thing with intuition and thoughts. You don't choose a thought. You don't think of a thought. You just have a thought.
Well, that's why the goal. If you're not getting what you want, then you need to change the thought. But the thought will follow the field or your emotional field. So you have your EQ, which is your emotional intelligence, and you had something happen to you, and if you don't recognize that, I feel now uncomfortable. If you don't recognize that, then your mind will start following. Then your mind will start thinking thoughts along lines with the emotion because it thinks that's what you want. And you have to stop and address it. Whoa, this is not what I want. And they even have specified it. Acupuncture is really good for this. Certain areas of the body, that this has to do with this. Like the stomach has to do with fear. What do you feel? You feel like you just got socked in the stomach. What are you afraid of? For example, and you want to address it. Go back, figure it out, and give yourself a new story. Let the kid off the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did I answer that completely?
I think that was pretty good. What do you think deja vu is?
I think deja vu is the field giving you either it's going to happen or it already happened. So another thing that happens is pretty common is that your dreams will start to show you images or things. At least in my life, whenever there was something that was going to shift, like a big shift, like a move or something like that, I was given dreams ahead of time. And I think it was a way for softening the blow to me so that my emotional field didn't get overwhelmed by it. Because after a while, you realize, and even after 2 days of having an emotional hit, regardless of what it was, you're now training your body to go there, if that makes sense. You're actually making it chronic. You're actually holding on to something you don't have to.
Yeah, totally. What do you think dreams are?
Dreams are another dimension. It's where we all go every single time we fall asleep. We go into another dimension, and we are getting things done there too. It's just like when we pass on, we're going into another dimension. Only if you can wake up during your dreams, then you're a pretty conscious person, and you can start manifesting and controlling your waking life as well. But you want to pay attention to your dreams. I used to journal my dreams, and there's a pattern. And so when you have a dream that gives you like a jolt, you want to wake up to it and say, okay, what was that? Look it up. There's so much information now. You can look up what this means, what this means, what this means, and you will instantly correlate it to what's going on in my life.
I love that. It's sort of like tarot cards. You ever done tarot cards?
Yeah, well, tarot cards just work off of energy fields. So you turn over a tarot card, it's because it's your energy. So trying to read for another person, unless you're an open conduit or have been trained to it, is kind of crazy. You only want to read for yourself, and you only want to put out good for other people because it's reflecting back to you. Whatever energy you put out is coming back to you.
I'm totally on board with the tarot cards. Every time I do them, they're like
right on track.
Accurate.
Okay, so
do you have to leave?
Yeah.
One more question, then you can leave. What advice, everything you've been through, everything you've done, everything in your life, what advice would you give to the world? I would say stop taking everything so seriously. Learn how to breathe and learn how to focus on your breath. Meditate every single day, just like brushing your teeth, so that you can control your mind and your emotions, and set some goals so that you can know where you're going. Especially if you're a young person, know what you want. Start pursuing that, and it will change. So go with the flow. Cool. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.